pretty lucky. I get to work with a lot of clients that I think of as superheroes. And I don't mean they're superheroes like they're fighting crime or flying through the skies or shooting webs or anything like that. They're superheroes because they solve problems. They get things done. They're high performers. They're high achievers. This is what they're used to doing. But when you're a superhero, wearing that cape all the time, it can kind of choke you. We know that when you get used to being that superhero, when you're the person who's always solving the problems, you're the person that's always the first to jump in and save the day, that can lead to burnout, exhaustion, overwhelm. Even if you love what you're doing, that cape can choke you. You can get to that point where it's just exhausting and overwhelming to always have to be that person who's the superhero, right? So I want to share today one of the questions I like to ask my clients. We'll be on a call sometimes and I'll check in on a client and say, hey, this project was happening or this challenge was happening or this merger, these things were going on the last time we talked. We talked through some ideas, how you were going to approach them, how you were going to delegate these things you were going to do. How did it go? And they share with me, this went great, this went well, I saved the day. And, we have this moment of celebration, like, great, you did all these things. And then I get to come in and go, you did all these things because that's who you are, which is wonderful. We're absolutely going to celebrate that. And you're still burned out and you're still exhausted and you still, you missed your kid's volleyball game or you didn't go to the play because this work thing came up. You compromised something that you weren't going to compromise anymore on. You're letting go of these things that matter to you to keep this persona because it's who you are. It's not a bad identity to have, but maybe you're not the person that has to be the only one that does it. So one of the questions I like to ask is, great, you swept in and you took care of this. And who did you hurt by not letting them do it? Who on your team is ready to try that cape on? Who didn't get to build this reference of them being able to be the person to come in and solve this problem? You're the problem solver. You probably have some people on your team or people that you work with, colleagues in your organization or in your group who are also problem solvers, but they're not getting that opportunity to show themselves, to prove that to other people because you're the first one to step in. So the way I like to reframe this for my superhero clients is, great, you don't have to be the only superhero. Who on your team are you hurting by always being the superhero? Because we know you're hurting yourself. We know that you're burned out. We know that you're exhausted. But there might be other people that aren't getting opportunities because you're always the first one to step in. And as a leader, one of the things you want to do is make sure you have a solid bench. Make sure the people that are coming up behind you know their skills. Turn around to the people behind you and say, hey, you do this better than I do. Let me delegate it. Let me pass it off to you. Because that's empowering for them and it gives you a break. You can loosen that noose around your neck. You may think of it as a cape, but it could be a noose too, right? So when you find yourself showing up as that superhero all the time, celebrate that you're that high achiever, that high performer. You're that person that can solve those problems and get those things done. Absolutely celebrate this about yourself. And then look for the next person who's ready for that cape. Because when that cape is choking you, burning you out, leaving you exhausted, leaving you overwhelmed, no matter how much you love solving those problems, ask yourself if it's time for someone else to step in and solve those problems too. Because you might be the one blocking them.